I just actually spent about 15 minutes, maybe 20, filming a review of some of the cars and providing some feedback and comments for what it's worth. I'm certainly not comfortable in doing video, but I thought it would be a nice way for you to get a under the body look at some of the cars. Unfortunately, it looks like the video did not actually stream and record, so I'm going to do it all again. I might be a little bit more polished this time because it's the second, nothing like a rehearsal to get you going, but it might also be a little bit shorter. But anyways, I'm going to give a quick overview of, say, the top 6 or 7 cars or so, and a little bit of feedback. Before I start, though, I just want to make sure that it's actually streaming, and it looks like it. So, well, let's try this again. First of all, I think I wanted to mention again how much I appreciate you entering the proxy. We had an absolutely fantastic group of cars, as you could tell from the results. We had many lap records broken. We had many fastest laps, and you all should be very proud of the entries or of the entry you sent to this proxy. So the first comment I wanted to make about the actual cars themselves is the importance, as you probably know, of good tires. Tires is, for me anyways, is extremely boring in preparing. I would rather be painting the car, I would rather be building the chassis, rather testing the car than actually preparing tires. But without a doubt, car number 2 and car number 19 had the best tires in the series, and it showed with their strong results. Car number 7, I'm noticing some blistering on the tires, and definitely those tires on my car was not up to par of the tires on Dennis and Alan's car. So that's my first comment. The second comment I wanted to make is I wanted to just give a shout out to, excuse me, a few cars. This one's from Les, and I think it was his first, maybe his second proxy. I'm pretty sure, I'm 99% sure it was his first chassis that he's ever built, and he went a different route using a Lexan or polycarbonate chassis. I remember, I believe some what were the cars? Ninko had some Lexan chassis on some of their higher end cars. 22K NSR motor. This car ran really well, and it finished in 10th place. So congratulations, Les. Absolutely fantastic job for a rookie to build such a good car using a chassis of his own design. So nice job. Um, I don't think Smokey-O needs any introduction. He is a multi-proxy winner. He built a styrene chassis. This is the chassis that I had to grind away at the back because it was actually unable to go around my track. The top corner, the bank corner, it was scraping and the car would just spin out. So unfortunately, there were a few penalty points applied, incurred, I should say, due to the fact that the chassis had to be grounded at the back. This car ran really well, but this Pro Slot motor, I don't know, maybe it's the voltage. We ran at 10.5, but this motor wasn't my favorite. It definitely also slowed towards the end of the racing yesterday when Alwyn was driving the car. It I can't really put my finger on it and say exactly why I don't like the motor, but the car itself, the chassis, the tires, everything was really good, but I think it was held back a little bit by the motor. And then I think a special shout out to I think an incredible chassis built by Audi One. He used the styrene last year. I think this is a modification of the chassis. It certainly was not cut the way this one is. So I think it was the chassis from last year that was modified. This car had excellent tires, and really well. It won at least one race. It won one race, and it was top qualifier at least 4 times based on the spreadsheet that I have beside me. So a really nice car, and congratulations, Alan, on a great job on building your own chassis and competing very, very well with cars that I guess had more established designs. So well done. I also wanted to just make mention of the fact that Richard Coquitlam Kid did a fantastic job by being able to tame a long can motor. Now the car was quick, however I do think that in the race yesterday, especially in the lane that Elvin was driving, there were a few challenges. The car had some wheel hop if you accelerated hard out of a couple of the sharper corners, and although it is quick, it was hard to drive it at the limit. However, having said all of that, still he did a great job making a long can motor work on a no magnet wood Proxy series. So with that, I'm going to start by giving some overview of some of the cars. Let's start by looking at Stevie's car, number 18, a Scale Auto ball bearing motor, pretty much a stock setup. This car was quick, it ran really well. Yeah, nice car. Okay, the others I took the bodies off so we can look underneath, and we'll go to Super Slab. So this is Alvain's car. This is a Richard Mack chassis running a 30k Shark motor at an angle. This car was really easy to drive, really consistent, not super fast, but really maybe didn't qualify as well, but really raced strongly. Let's have a look. Front wheels touching, definitely carrying some weight. I just want to make sure that you guys can see what I can see. A beautifully made chassis, as you can see there. Some twist in the design. Richard Mack is from England, and he sells these chassis online. So great job, very nice, beautiful Capri body. Yeah, great car. Next, let's look at Rob CGY Racer from Kelowna. Another Capri. Wheels touching slightly, as you can tell from the wear on the front tires. I think it was coated, and you can tell that it's worn slightly. So definitely carrying a little bit of weight on the front tires, some weight behind the body post, and some weight on the chassis. A 22 NSR motor. Again, I think this is Rob's second Proxy. He entered the MR slot car, Canada slot car, Mazda Proxy. I think that was his first. So absolutely amazing job, Rob, for finishing so strongly in a tied for 6 position for, again, well, essentially a rookie. Just amazing, and such a strong field. You should be very proud of your efforts. Tape on the bottom, a little bit of movement in the pod. Actually, pod's quite loose. Yeah, it was a good car that performed strongly. After Rob, let's go to our Australian friend, and another BMW. 25k Shark motor. Looks like there's some weight on the side, both sides, and some weight, quite a bit of weight on the motor pod. Um, Definitely quite a loose pod, in fact, in this car, as you can tell, quite loose. Um, Carrying very little weight on the front. I would say the front wheels just barely touching on this car. It was absolutely hooked up and dialed in. Driving this car yesterday, I thought it won. I did not know. In fact, none of us knew what the results were as we were racing. We did not have a column in our spreadsheet that allowed, that added up the laps. So we only added the laps once we were done. And it's amazing when you drive, what is it, 21 cars. You can obviously tell there were some slower cars, some faster cars, but all of the top 10 cars were all really, really quick. So only at the end did you actually know who was where. And when I drove this car, I thought it was going to be unbeatable, but it ended up, I think, in fourth, maybe fifth position. Um, a great build and a strong result. Congratulations. Okay, um, now we have the Capri from Coquitlam Kid. Um, let's have a look. Looks like the chassis has been braced with a couple of styrene tubes in the front. The front guide has been reinforced. Motor has been glued. This car was again really quick. It had a little bit of wheel hop. This is the older style of sideways pods. The new sideways pod has been reinforced, but it was a great car and it did really well. Pod was taped at the bottom. A reminder that the weight will have to be on the inside next time. But it was a great car and it did well, finishing in fifth position. So that's Coquitlam Kid. Next up we have Chris Guy. If you've ever seen photos of Chris's builds on the forum, you would immediately recognize that absolutely clean, beautiful car or chassis. If you look at some of the stuff he's done for the VRAA, just absolutely works of art. Look at the tape holding the wire in place. No weight on the motor part. Motor part is relatively tight. Front wheels definitely carrying weight, fairly, I would say, relatively heavy on the front wheels. Independent front axle. Just an absolute beautiful car. And Alvin commented that this was the best car, one of the best, or probably the best car for him yesterday. Alvin drove the what is the inside lane, and it has a fairly significant S bend just before the start and finish line. And some cars can handle that and some struggle with it. If it handles that, you get a lot of speed going into the top corner or the first corner. This car was exceptional through those S's. Piranha 20K motor, just a beautiful built with a beautiful silver and white BMW body. Audi 1. So just mentioned earlier that to me this is the pick as far as a chassis that is home built, own design, just a fantastic job. You can see there's some wiring that essentially helps with the twist of the chassis. Just an amazing job. Piranha 20K motor, a little bit of weight underneath the front axle. Front wheels just touching. Absolutely super low. I don't know if you can see that or not, but super low and very light car. Maybe a little bit too light. some of the tracks that had significant elevation changes, um, it was a little bit of a handful, but really, really good tires. This car had, it really was stuck down. It just had amazing grip. Just look at that. Really great job, Alan. Next up, we have my car. So again, a BMW. It was bright on the outside, and it was bright on the inside, with my weird sense of humor. This was new for me this year, running a high RPM motor and then gearing it down. It was something different. The car, I think, did pretty good. I doubt that you can see on camera, but there's actually some blistering on the tires, and I definitely think that the tires on my car was not as good. Oh, not sure if that test is proving anything, but I don't think my tires was as good as the tires that was used on car number 2 and car number 19, or as well prepared as the tires that were used on car number 2 and car number 19. Independent front axle, weight, some weight on the pod. Pod was loose, yeah, tape on the bottom. Had to replace the guide, as you guys know, and thanks for allowing me to do that. Thanks for sending the car back, Alan. Thanks for all the help, in fact, getting the car back to me and not missing an event. I don't think the guide replacement actually affected the results of the car. I think the car ran as well after the guide was replaced. It won 2 races after the guide was replaced, and I didn't have a track at that time because my track gets lifted or hoisted to the ceiling in my garage. So I set it up the same as it was when I originally did it. There's some weight on the front axle, front wheels, and like I said, I don't think replacing the guide actually impacted the results. But hey, I can blame that if needed. So that is car number 7, and then lastly, it is car number 2. So this is car number 2. This is again just an absolute beautiful chassis. I forget where Dennis got this chassis from. Someone in England, I believe, and it is a very unique design. The car was really a strong performer. I mean, it ended up with 280 points, and my car ended up with 259. But Dennis had 5 points penalty. Originally, the car was entered with a large, like a 1/24 scale guide, and so I had to cut that down. I think I did actually too good a job cutting it down because the car actually still did very well, Dennis. The car incurred 5 penalty points because of that, as you know. I'm sure you read it in the forum. The car was easy to drive. I was surprised. When I drove this car yesterday, like I said, I didn't know the results till the end, but the car was super smooth. I expected it to be on the podium. I was surprised. I think it ended up 5th, or maybe even 6th. I was surprised by that. I think Alvin, the car didn't do as well in that inside lane, but it was obviously the class of the field. Again, really, really good tires. Dennis uses an NSR tire, and then he puts an insert in the rim. Independent front axles, and a strong performance from car number 2. I think that's sort of everything, other than mentioning, I was looking at this earlier, and you look at this car, I think car number 3 and car number 30, great cars, except if you look at that, if you can hear the actual wheel rubs on the inside of the body, which is not good. And such a short wheelbase. So if you look, for example, let's look at the wheelbase of this Capri compared to this Porsche. You can see it's fairly significantly shorter. Also the guide length. However, I think this Porsche can be a strong contender or performer, I should say. However, I would not enter this car with such a short wheelbase. In fact, I don't think I personally would enter any car with a long can motor, but I think especially in such a short wheelbase, I think a Sidewinder Piranha type of motor would have been a better choice for this car. But this car and car number 30, both of them were very quick, just a little bit more difficult to handle and drive consistently at that speed. Last comment, where is the car number 13? 13. This car was absolutely, I mean, I could have driven this car yesterday all day long. It was so easy to drive. It just lacked a little bit of speed. Having that Spanish King, NSR Spanish King, just didn't have enough oomph. Again, I think if this was a Sidewinder with a Piranha or Scale Auto or NSR motor, I think it would have done better, but it was an absolute joy to drive car number 13. So in summary, thanks again. You all should be very proud. It was a strong field. You know how many lap records were broken. You know how many hosts commented on the field of cars. And I want to thank you for entering. I hope most of you will be back next time. And I hope to get the cars in the mail and back home shortly, I would say within the next week. I do have a couple of trophies that I am in the process of ordering, and so the top 3 cars or so, they might have to wait a little bit because I would like to ship those trophies back with the cars. And again, congratulations and thank you so much for entering. Okay, cheers.